everybody. Welcome, Justice Warriors. Good to see you today. I am happy that we're having a decent weather day here in Indiana right now, so that's a good thing till it snows this weekend, but we won't get into that. We are here today to continue to discuss the case of Valerie Tindall, and I am honored that with us today we have SHENA SANDEFUR, who is Valerie's mom, and Jackie, who is Valerie's sister, her youngest sister. Correct, Jackie?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to be going on and stuff about the case and share some information. And I'm going to pull up a screen here to share with you guys some beautiful photos and things that were shared with me for I can share them with you. And we are going to talk about this case with all of you guys. I do want to say hello. I see Jinx and stuff out there. Hello, Miss Jinx. Thanks for being here. I know Miss Paige is joining us. And I know Mama Bear is going to be in here later. And CJK. So I appreciate you guys being here. And SHENA, let's go ahead and kind of share with everybody about Valerie and tell us about her and what she did and what she liked and, you know, what kind of person she is.
Well, Valerie was Jack and I's first child, and she grew into a beautiful, very intelligent, very sweet, loving young lady. Worked hard. I was so proud of her for what kind of hard worker she was. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. And anytime anybody needed help, she would jump right in. If they needed to borrow money from her or anything like that, she was real quick to give it. But unfortunately for her, she had some molestation happen at a very young age. And not only did the molestation happen, but then on top of it, someone who she held dear to her was calling her a liar. And this was supposed to be her best friend in her eyes. And not only did they call her a liar, but they kept it from us. My oldest daughter is the one who brought it to my attention. And she called me in the kitchen and told me, "Mom, Valerie's got something to tell you." And Valerie had her face covered up with the lace of her nightie that I had bought her. It had 2 layers. The under layer was silk and the top layer was lace. And she took the lace and covered her face with it. And when I said, "What's up, Val?" she just kind of shook her head and her whole body is in to tell me no. Like, I'm not going to say nothing. And I kept trying to get her to talk to me. I could tell it was kind of useless. So I went ahead and looked at Bree and I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And she hesitated. So I was like, "Okay, well, nobody's going to tell me that." And I started her turn. And Brianna kind of yelled it out that David molested us, or molested her, is what she said. And I stopped and I turned around. I was like, "What?" And she repeated it. And I said, "Is that why you're covering your face?" And she kind of did the whole nod, and yeah. And I was like, "Oh my God, Valerie, like, that's not no reason for you to hide your face. You shouldn't be ashamed of that. You didn't do nothing wrong. You're a baby." And I said, "He's a grown man and he knows better." And then my oldest one started bawling her eyes out and told me that it was her fault. And I said, "How is it your fault?" And she told me he done it to me first. And if I would have said something, then he wouldn't have gotten to her.
Yeah.
And I told her, just like I told her sister, absolutely not. You cannot blame yourself. I said, it's, again, Brianna, he is a grown man. He knew better. And my children were so little at the time. So that's why we left Indy, kind of that. And, you know, several things that happened when we were up there. I had one lady, crazy woman, chasing me in her vehicle at one time. I had another lady throwing glass jars in the grocery store. And I said, we got to go. I'm done. But then we moved out here because we thought, you know, small town living, everybody's close. At least that's what you're taught to believe when you're growing up.
Yeah.
That everybody knows each other and neighbors help each other out and all that good stuff. Well, we thought that's what the Scots were. You know, he come over here, him and his wife, and introduce themselves, and he asked if Valerie, or I think it was just Valerie, he had asked if she wanted to get some summer work or something like that, and she could come along and help him cut grass. And then Brianna showed interest, and she went for a little bit, but then he said that she was tearing up the yards, so he couldn't work her anymore. But Valerie had friends and boyfriends go to work with her. You know, we've known the Scots for at least 2 to 3 years. Now, our house caught fire in 2017. And due to not being able to find anything out here and not being able to get any help from anybody, we done our best to get a roof over our kids' heads. And unfortunately, it led us to a trailer park up in Indy. And I was desperate, so I took it. It's a buy here, pay here type deal, rent to own. And the trailer park shut down. And it was disgusting. Me moving in there, like I worked so hard to get the place livable. It's been this chaos, it seems like, nonstop. And we got told the trailer park was shut down. So then we had to figure out what to do then. And then we had a guy offer to move it for so much money. So we got a hold of Rushville to see if we could put it down here. And they gave us the approval on that. So we lived in our garage temporarily with the 3 girls. We insulated and plasticed and everything we could to keep it warm, and had to fetch water from neighbors and stuff to use. Took baths at other people's houses. But I mean, it was pretty cozy, really. Wasn't that bad as bad as we thought it'd be. But
Yeah.
the guy, he kept on stringing me along about the trailer. Finally got it out here. And like no sooner we got out here, I think it was 2016. We first moved out, 2017, the fire. I want to say we moved back out here in 2021. And that's when she started working with Pat. So she had worked for him for a couple of years.
Yeah. And just to make sure everybody understands, so the early incident you were talking about was somebody that you guys knew, and that both your oldest daughter and your middle daughter, meaning Valerie, had been molested by that person. We're talking about somebody else. We're not talking about Patrick Scott yet. And you found out that happened to them when they're very young. And then you lived in Indy, you moved out of Indy, and you moved to Arlington, Indiana, which I'll end up showing you guys, everybody, where that's located and stuff, on a map and stuff here. And then you had this fire that then you ended up moving to this trailer, had the trailer moved to Arlington, Indiana, while you were working on fixing up the house and stuff from the fire you had. And so you guys had moved out there. Wasn't she like maybe about 10 years oldish when you guys first had moved out to Arlington? About 10, maybe?
Yes, the very first time. But we weren't around very long. Yeah, I think it was about 10.
Yeah. So he had been technically a longtime neighbor because he lived there, but definitely by the time that she's 15, he gets her to mow lawns as like kind of like a side part-time summer, get some extra money, and had asked your older daughter to do it. But for some reason, he's sharing that your older daughter can't do it right, but Valerie can. So he's trying to get,
And
just her and
technically,
Valerie there.
he didn't ask the oldest one. She asked if she could.
Oh, she asked. Okay. And
Yeah,
then, but he's saying Valerie can do it. So he lets her start doing that. He asked her to start doing that when she's 15, which during the summer, of course, she wants to earn some extra money and she goes to,
absolutely.
start mowing lawns.
Yep.
So
And I mean,
that was
he's a family
part-time,
man,
right? She only went a
so
couple days a week.
yeah. Usually, I think it started off on the weekends, I want to say. And then it progressively just, she started going like on during the summer, she would go work with him a little more throughout the week. And it took me a while. I didn't even realize at first that they didn't work Wednesdays. And he kept pointing it out, we don't do Wednesdays. And I was like, okay. I don't know why that didn't click with me, but I didn't even realize she wasn't going on Wednesdays. But yeah,
Yeah.
it became like a Monday through Friday thing during the summer.
Okay. So Valerie was, Valerie, now we're get up to that she's 17, right? And she's going to the
Mhm.
local high school there.
Yep. 1 year left.
1 year left for her to graduate. And she's going to dances and stuff like that, right? She had a boy that she liked.
Yep.
And I think I saw the picture. Didn't she go to a dance with with the boy, or was that somebody
He
else?
did. And that boy that you're bringing up now is the reason why when the police told me that Scott had dropped Valerie off with a boy, he's the reason why I called BS on that.
Yeah.
Because while Valerie went out to dinner with him and his wife, this boy mysteriously shows up, and Scott told me out of his own mouth how badly it pissed him off. Well, I mean, if I took somebody out to dinner and they invited somebody up to meet them, that would piss me off too. Not only was it somebody who he didn't know that he didn't invite, but come to find out the boy had drove all the way from Illinois to meet her.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I could understand why he was pissed to an extent. I just figured that's why he was so upset.
Yeah.
But then after all this happened, I'm like, well, maybe that right there was a little bit more of a sign too. He was a little, like, he made it clear. He said it to me twice that he was very pissed about it,
Hmm.
which I
So
wasn't happy about it either. But she's a 17-year-old kid. That's what they do. Silly
so
stuff.
during this time frame, you had noticed that, um, and obviously there's a lot of stuff in hindsight. I know that you'll talk about and share and stuff too, but at the time, would you say probably from when she was 15 to the age of 17, Patrick Scott was inviting and taking her along on family functions, correct? With
Yeah.
his family? So
Yeah.
they
At
would
first,
go
I didn't.
somewhere and he would invite her to go.
Yeah. At first, we just thought, they're just being really kind and friendly. It's the whole family going, grandkids and all. Um, so not really thinking too much into it at first. And then over this last year, actually, is when I started having questions and I started getting more and more upset because it wasn't just her going to Holiday World with the whole family. It was her going shopping for school supplies just for her. And then she called me and was telling me, I don't remember how we ended up on the phone, but we ended up on the phone together at one point. And she mentions how she's getting underwear. And I kind of blew up a little bit. I was like, excuse me? Like, why are they buying you underwear? Why is he buying you underwear? And she said, he's buying it, Mom, but he's not looking at them. You don't see them. It's me and Elizabeth picking them out, his daughter. And I said, okay, but he's still got to pay for it, Valerie. Like, wow. And that, I think,
Mhm.
was the first time I got upset about stuff that was happening. And then the next thing was the car situation got brought up, which I didn't understand. She come home. Well, I'll tell you what started it, actually. What started the car thing was I had purchased her first vehicle for her. The only reason why I did that was because him and his wife had offered me a car that was pretty decent for $500. I thought, well, you can't beat that. Sure. You've got to own it outright. You know, it's her first vehicle, and God knows I don't want to have a new one or expensive one for her first car. So I took up the offer. Of course, my oldest, she was PO'd at me because I didn't buy her first car. But I was like, well, you know somebody, I'll get you one too. But she just happened to know the right person, we thought.
Yeah.
So we buy this car, and Valerie always locks her car, always. And usually she parked it in the driveway. Well, one night she parks it at the other end of our trailer. And the next day, taking my husband to work or picking him up, and she calls me and she says, Mom, I went to go leave. Her and her friend was leaving, and the car just quit running. And the car just died on her. And I said, well, that's weird because it wasn't having any issues. And so her and her friend had pushed it up in the driveway. My husband, when we got home, started going through it. He spent a lot of money and a lot of time trying to figure out what was wrong with this car. Finally he comes in and tells me, he says, Sheena, I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you. He said, I've changed everything from front to back. I cannot figure it out. Well, Valerie says, Mom, Pat told me to check my gas. I guess he gets water in his gas all the time. I said, really? She said, yeah. And I said, Valerie, where do we live? We live in the same place he does. If he gets water in his gas, don't you think we would too? So I kind of just thought that was just, okay, crazy. Well, later, I guess my husband told him to go ahead and check it for her because we weren't home. And sure enough, it was 2/3 full of water. And I looked at Valerie when I got home and I was talking to her, and I said, now, you know who did that, right? She said, who? And I said, well, think about it, Valerie. Scott gets water in his gas all the time, and you got water in yours all of a sudden when you parked it down there and we bought the car from them. Somebody had to have the key to open the tank. So it's obvious it was somebody in their house. I assumed it was his wife.
Right.
Because she had come to me, I want to say a week before or so. I want to say a week. Well, no, it was a week before that I let her off of ground. It's what it was. She come to us prior to that, and it was just me at home at the time. And she comes in, she says, can I talk to you? I was like, yeah, sure, come on in. And we stood there for a minute. She says, you know, I love your girls like my own kids. And I'm thinking, yeah, BS, but okay, yeah, sure. And because I never believed she liked my kids. I don't know why. I picked that up a long time ago, I feel like, really. But our dogs are whining. She said, I just want to let you know that Valerie was doing 80 mile an hour through Shelbyville the other day. She took the corner on 2 wheels. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, she was just flying through Shelbyville. First, I'm thinking, well, first of all, how do you know this? But I didn't ask. I was sitting there just wondering it, listening to her story. And she said, I just want to let you know, I love your girls. I do. I love your girls. But I just want to let you know, something might happen to her. And I said, okay, I appreciate you letting me know. I'm going to talk to her about it when she gets home. She left, and no sooner she walked out my door, Valerie's best friend's mom's calling me. And she's the girl who was with her that day. And her mom said, did Valerie tell you about Pat's wife? And I said, no, but she literally just walked out my door. Why? What's up? She said she was stalking the girls through town the other day. I said, oh, that makes more sense. funny how she conveniently left herself out of the story. She said, yeah, she was following the girls all over town. I guess Valerie sped up trying to get away from her. Okay. Well, now I'm going to talk to Valerie when she gets home. She come home and I asked her, so you got something to tell me? And she said, oh, yeah, actually, I do. And then she just jumped right on the story about, how she had Linda chasing her through town, but it wasn't Linda driving. It was her daughter. Her daughter was driving her new silver SUV. And mom was telling her where to go and telling her to follow her. And then
And
after,
not to interrupt you, but this was in Shelbyville, Indiana, where it just so happens that's where he had a work site there. And when we get farther into details about the car and everything, that's where Valerie's car was found, was in Shelbyville as well. So
that's where
she's
they
following
usually
her
work.
around where she is in that same town.
His wife works out there as well.
Yeah.
And I've
And
recently
Mother
learned that
Dragon, they're from
basically
Arlington, Indiana. This happened in Arlington, Indiana. Sorry, just answering a question in the people here. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Shayna.
You're fine. But his wife worked out in Shelbyville as well, and I learned that his entire family is at Shelbyville. The ones that aren't are in a whole nother area. So they're tied to Shelbyville quite a bit. And so I find out from Valerie that it's all true and stuff. And I said, why didn't you say something? And she said, well, I hadn't had a chance to talk to you really. And I was like, yeah, I know, we're all coming and going, we're all pretty busy. And it was after that, I think. Yeah, it was after that conversation with her. I asked her, I said, so does Linda have something to worry about? Is there a reason for her to be following you around? She said, oh, no. And I said, okay, well, I got to ask,
And
She's
you got
acting
the
like
impression
a
that
jealous wife, kind of.
Linda was upset about Valerie, you guys getting the car for Valerie and Valerie driving that car. She seemed,
No,
just
Linda wasn't
upset with
upset
that.
about the car.
Yeah.
As far as I
Right.
know, she was there when I signed the paperwork and gave him the money. She had no problem with it. She seemed like she was completely happy with it.
Right.
It was just sitting over there by itself.
And I remember you telling me that what was odd about all of a sudden the water in the tank of this car, that you have to have a key to open it up, was that on that particular night before, Valerie had parked it in a different place than normal, right? And so it was kind of farther back that you guys couldn't see it normally, but all of a
actually,
sudden,
it was closer to their property.
Yeah.
It was like right across from their driveway. And yeah, we couldn't have seen it where it was sitting.
So was this, and this would have been, did this go on before or after you guys found out that Patrick Scott was tracking Valerie's phone?
I want to say that was before.
Right, because you said
I'm pretty sure
you end up finding out, and then you were really asking Valerie what was going on with that, and because you were concerned about when you found that out.
So that happened with Linda, and that's where the beginning of my concern started, was right there. And this is what's crazy about this whole situation is I never, ever once suspected Pat of anything. Now, when I had conversations with Linda in the past, she had pointed out that she was on meds because I told her how Valerie said she's kind of crazy sometimes. I was laughing about it. I said, yeah, she's telling me I'm kind of crazy sometimes. And she's like, kind of got a little on the defense mode, like, oh, it's probably my medication. She said, I have been driving Pat nuts here lately. I did just have it changed. I guess she was admitting that her meds were actually affecting her mental health, and she was a little more aggressive than usual. And to hear anybody talk, they say that Pat is the docile one, that he is the quiet one. You won't never see him yell at nobody. But Linda, on the other hand, and I thought, well, that's kind of funny that you say that, because that's instantly what I thought when this all happened, was it had to have been Linda. But then my son-in-law points out, he said, it's not possible, Sheena. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, think about it. Valerie was really strong. And I did kind of space the fact that she lifted weights, she was working out, and she did have a lot of muscle. So that I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. It couldn't have. I said, unless she had help. That's the only way she could have done anything to her. The whole story that Pat gives, it just, none of it makes any sense. None of it.
Yeah.
Valerie would not have come on to you. I know my daughter better than that. And the fact that you say she's getting undressed, but you're the one throwing a belt around her neck, like,
Right.
really?
So
That
let's
just, it
let's
blows
fill
my
the group
mind.
in. Let's fill the group in. Some more specifics. If anybody, if you're on here watching this, or you guys are watching this video later on, I'm going to make sure you guys are all familiar with it. So if you did not watch our previous show talking about Valerie Tindall that we did when they first announced the arrest of Patrick Scott. So to catch everybody up and make sure they understand the case. So Valerie went missing on June 7th, correct? And it was
Yes.
it was odd to you when you came home, because she had told your husband that her dad that she's going to work. And when you
Yes.
came home, Shannon, you told me that it was unusual because the first thing you thought was it's Wednesday and she doesn't work on a Wednesday.
It had dawned on me after he told me she was at work, and I sat there a couple minutes thinking about it. I was like, but it's Wednesday. And he said, yeah, I know. And I said, well, she'll work on Wednesdays. And he was like, yeah, I know. And I said, well, why did you let her go then? He said, I'm tired arguing with her, Sheena, which I totally understood that. And I was like, well, you still should have told her no. Because we thought, since she wasn't supposed to work on Wednesday, she must be fibbing, right?
Right.
Well, I'm thinking when the hours start passing, it's kind of getting a little late out. And I think at the time I was coming home, I was on day shift at that time. So I was home about 4:30-ish. So 5:30, I'm like, this is about borderline of what time they would be home. Like, this is a little pushing it, really.
She gave us
So
a time.
I tried to call her first, and it went straight to voicemail. So I waited a few minutes thinking it might be bad reception or something. I tried to call again. And then I called Scott. He answers the phone and tells me that he hadn't seen or heard from her, that it's Wednesday. We don't work Wednesday. So he reminded me of that. And I said, yeah, I know. I just thought maybe you had something for her to do, because she told her dad she was going to work. You know, she asked permission to go to work. And he told her, yes, she could. And my youngest here and my son-in-law were both here, and they both witnessed the conversation. And I remember my son-in-law telling me how she had a huge smile on her face when she left. And I thought, well, first thought in my mind, as a teenage girl, she's got to be going to see a guy, right? You're leaving the house, you got a big old smile on your face, and you're supposed to be going to work. So that's obviously what it is. So,
right. And Jackie, you were there when she, and Jackie is Valerie's now, you're now 14, correct, Jackie?
Yeah.
Yes. And you were there when Valerie was leaving. Did you, I hear you say did she tell you a time or you guys a time she thought she'd be home?
She said she would be home around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because she left, I think, around 11 or 12.
Yeah.
She said she would only be gone for a couple hours.
So
that's what I
time,
did.
so by the time you got home, you're like, she should definitely be home already. It's way past the time that she told
Yeah, I had
everybody
no
she was
idea
going to
that
be
they
there.
were told in a couple hours. But yeah, I mean, even if she worked a regular full day, which I've never heard of her going to work at noon in the first place, or on Wednesday. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons why that should have been looked into right away. But yeah, the fact that she wasn't home and it was starting to kind of get dark out, you know, the sun's starting to set a little bit. I'm like, yeah, no, this ain't normal. So I'm getting nervous, you know, and I start calling around. And when he tells me that she wasn't there at that point, I was kind of at a loss. I'm like, well, I don't know who else really to call besides her best friend, which she hadn't heard from her. And I was just dumbfounded. I was hoping that she was at a friend's house.
Right.
Hopefully down Carthage, and that would explain why her phone was going straight to voicemail. But when the next morning rolled around, that night I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was, every car that passed, I was looking out the window, listening for it to pull in the driveway. The next morning rolled around, me and my husband both got up real quick, got dressed, and we agreed to go to Carthage, drive around, see if we could find her car. And if we couldn't, then we were calling the police. We got to Carthage, we looked, didn't see it, and he said, call the cops. And I was like, okay. And I got on the phone, I started dialing. And by the time we got home, I think he was here within 30 minutes later to take our report. And I made it clear to him that she left here under the intentions of going to work, as far as we know. And they knew who the Scotts were. I pointed that that's her boss over there, and he knew exactly who he was. Then he made a comment how they were a strange couple, and then continued to take my statement. And I told him, I said, she's never, ever left our house and not told us where she was going. And she really absolutely has never left and not come back home. So I was definitely worried. But Jack and I have always tried to push it into her to not be so quick to talk to guys online and go meet them like she did the day that the Scotts took her out to dinner. I
Right.
just could not believe she had done that, because I've always taught my girls not to ever talk to anybody they don't know in the first place, let alone go meet them somewhere.
Right.
So basically, I'm just a nervous wreck thinking, oh my God, she lied, say she was going to work. She went and met a guy.
And so when she went missing, and you were filing this report and stuff like that, you had both Linda and you guys call him Patrick Scott. That's the same thing, but you guys had known him as Pat. They both had come over to talk to you guys, basically to try to convince you that she ran away.
That was not that night. That evening, we kind of let family and everybody know what was going on, and kind of kept an ear out, kept in touch with police. And the next day, my sisters had showed up here to put flyers out. They had printed out flyers for me. And we went, made 2 cars. Everybody loaded up 2 different vehicles. One went to Rushville and one went to Shelbyville, because those were the 2 main towns by us that we would go to. And so we went and we done all the flyers. And while we were out doing flyers, we actually had seen Patrick. And I was kind of hiding my face from him because he was driving right by me. And I decided I was going to go park and watch him and see what he's doing, because I knew he was the last one, you know, known to be with her. As far as we knew, he was the last one to see her. So he pulls up in his truck and he parks, and I'm sitting facing him a good ways away, trying to keep distance so he didn't see me. And we're sitting there watching, and he gets out of his truck and he's got this strange body language going on. I said, what in the hell is he doing? My sisters were like, what? And I said, you don't see him? He's like looking all over the place. And he walked to the front of his truck and he turned around and come back to the door of the truck. And I go, oh shit, he might have spotted me. Maybe he's leaving. And then all of a sudden he stops and he looks toward the entry, and here comes his wife flying through the parking lot in her car and pulls up beside him, and they both go into the Kroger's. We're sitting there for a minute. We was going to wait to see, you know, what they were getting or whatever, how much they come out with, because my thoughts went to, well, it's possible he might have got her an apartment, you know, because Valerie and Pat seemed to be pretty friendly at this point. to me. And I didn't believe my daughter would do anything like that, but at the same time, you really never know. And I could tell you that just from the experience with the molestation situation. That was just not anybody. It was somebody that my husband was raised by who had done that. So it just goes to show you never know. And so I
And this
thought,
is kind
well,
of you look in
maybe,
hindsight though
maybe,
too, right? Because when you found out he was tracking the
yeah,
phone and you were telling Valerie you didn't like that,
yeah,
at the time you were kind of thinking, okay, he's like a grandfather figure. Maybe he's just trying to keep an eye
yes,
on her
absolutely,
because she's working for
absolutely,
him, keeping a track where she is. And so Valerie didn't want you to make a big deal about it, right? And you thought, okay, this is I think he's what, 59 or whatever year old man. He's got grandkids, all this kind of
yeah,
stuff. And you were
yeah,
thinking about that kind of thing.
yeah. In my eyes, he was like grandpa, and I could see grandpa being a little overly protective. I mean, my kid's granddad, I mean, he's really old school protective type. And so I just kind of looked at him like that because he's almost her grandpa's age. And
Yeah.
so, like I said, he's got grandkids. So why would I think anything bad? It just never once did that ever cross my mind that he'd done anything to hurt her. Anything. Until
Now
later, much
the other
later
thing in
down the road.
hindsight, before we forget it, I know another thing you shared, which you thought was kind of odd at the time, and also because he said a comment to you, that's kind of how you knew, was that you had shared that he had a lot of cameras outside his house, right? That was
He pointed out to
taking
my
videos.
husband. Yeah, he pointed out to my husband that he could see the entire town, is what he said. I could see the entire town from where my cameras are set up. And they were all on his property, I think, but one, I think. And my husband told him, you need to take it down. And kind of looked at him stupid. And he said, it's illegal, right? You can't have that up there. I mean, it was like right on the edge of our property. There's a telephone pole, and he put the camera at the top of the telephone pole and pointed
Mhm.
it out down the road. Or so he says. Now I'm beginning to wonder. But yeah, I kind of put that story with something somebody had told me later, and I was like, well, maybe he really was uh, controlling, because somebody had tried to tell me that he was controlling. And another person told me the same thing, but the other person also said he was abusive. But they
Mhm.
never, like I watched them, they never let that on one time. I never seen that. His wife didn't seem to be afraid of him, but what I was being told was the opposite. And
Well, and for he had been around her for, a couple years before this even happened. So,
yeah, and
he's
I didn't
kind of
hear nothing
building her
about him
trust,
until,
right?
yeah. I've never had any neighbors come to me and talk to me about him until after this all happened. So I want to make that real clear right now.
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
I know somebody's gonna be
absolutely.
like, "What, she did this?" No, I didn't know
Right.
anything about this man besides he had a family, and he seemed to be your everyday hardworking man. Like he got up, he went to work, he come home, he work out in his yard. He just seemed to be the daddy, grandpa, hard worker. Didn't think anything of him.
Right. Well, and
What
like I shared with
what
you,
started
Sheena,
raising
it's
flags was the wife.
like I shared with you before too. I mean, hindsight, when you look at that, the problem is that, our normal minds doesn't let us think that somebody
No,
would do something so evil. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Your mind doesn't let you go there. And people who
I mean, yeah,
are
who could
target
think that?
children, they groom and do that on purpose. They get the trust of
Yeah,
the families and they get the trust of the children on purpose because that's how they get closer and closer to people to trust them, to not worry about anything because they've been around, and had been around her for a while. So
yeah,
I mean, trust me, nobody at all would blame that this is all on him. He's the monster who did this. And you know,
Absolutely. Like I told my kids when they were little, he was a grown ass man. And that's exactly what I'm going to stand by. He was a grown man. I should have been able to trust my neighbor to be a neighbor, not a predator. You know, nobody thinks like that. Nobody goes outside and goes, oh, I wonder if that neighbor's a predator. You know, I had some people make stupid comments about that stuff, but it's not very smart of you to think like that. If that's how you think.
so you make the police report, you tell the police, and it's several days before the police make a silver alert, which is what we had just looked at, that silver alert that they posted for her versus an actual amber alert for her at the time. And
So,
you
I
also,
feel
I'm sorry, go
feel
ahead.
like I was told that I had to report her as a runaway at some point if I wanted that put out there. Now, if that was ever put out there that I said she ran away, that's a lie. We wanted to believe that's what happened.
Right.
And the next day after we made this police report, I made it crystal clear the day of, she has never done this. My daughter's
Right.
missing. She's never done this. That right there says, I'm worried. Go find her.
Right.
So to me personally, I feel like when they left here, they should have went straight to his house. They should have knocked
And
on his door and asked him if he had seen her. And
so
when
when
he
they
said no, they
questioned
should have
him,
asked.
because we know he later gets arrested for lying. Was his first lie that he first told them he didn't see her at all?
Yep.
And then the
That was the
second
first lie.
lie,
I've never seen.
the second lie was he dropped her off to somebody else,
Dropped her off somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
and that and that she drove away with somebody in some type of vehicle he was describing then.
Yeah, light blue car. A light blue car. He did not know the make or the model, which I found very, very funny. Because you mean to tell me you're a 60-year-old man, you don't know the make or model of the vehicle? I can look at almost any vehicle out there and tell you what the make and model is. How do you not know? And then he also had owned a car lot at one point. Another one I would have called BS on.
Yeah.
And, you know, every time the police got these statements from them, I just felt like they would have come over and ran it past us and asked us what we thought about it or something. Not one
Right.
time. Not
So
once.
at the time, you guys don't even know where Valerie's vehicle is, right? You have no idea even where her car is,
Nope.
because you don't know where she is, what's happened.
Nope.
He's missing. You've got, now he's lying about, you know, oh, I didn't see her. Now I did see her, but I dropped her off for somebody else to pick her up. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening. And you know that her vehicle's missing. Now, I want to point out to our audience that she goes missing June 7th. So they're supposed to be
Yes.
looking for Valerie and looking for her car. So what do you end up finding out about that?
Yep. Well, I had some friends get a hold of us, and they said, have the police contacted you? And I said, no. And they said, well, I told them that they had a couple days or whatever, 24 or 48 hours to contact you and let you know the recent outcome. And I'm getting a little nervous at this point. I'm like, okay. And she said, I will be over in a little bit and I'll bring you what I have. She shows up and she shows me the paperwork and she's reading it. It's the police report that had been put out that says that Valerie's car was spotted at the job site. Then it was backed into a parking spot without the plate and appeared to be trying to be hidden between other broke down vehicles. And I said, so they have her car? She said, yes. And that just made me so mad. I have all these people out here looking for this car. I have neighbors that are going out and going searching in lakes and ponds for this car with magnets and whatever else they were doing. And you've had it. And then I found this out toward the end of August, I think. Okay, she
So
went missing the 7th. They found it on like the 26th
of June, correct?
June.
So
Yes,
your
ma'am.
daughter's missing June 7th. They find the car. I'm trying to watch my language because Jackie's on here too. I don't want to say a bad word.
He's heard it
They
all.
find I think damn is not going to be too shocking to her, but they find the damn car
Yeah.
weeks after she's missing, and they don't tell you that they found her car. But you have other
No.
people in the community who know they find her car at the
Yep.
end of June and come and tell you that. You find it out in August, which is kind of a big development, right? That here's the
Huge,
car, but
huge.
Valerie's nowhere around.
Yep, absolutely. That
So
just, I don't
did you
even know how
contact
to,
your
like,
detective or?
oh yeah. Well, actually, as soon as me and her had finished going through the paperwork and reading everything and discussing everything ourselves, I get a phone call. And I was like, sitting there kind of laughing. He says, well, we just wanted to let you know that we have found her car. We have located her car. And I'm like, oh, you have? Okay. And she's sitting over there just like, I said, yeah. You know, it's like they knew that she was coming to see me.
Wow.
And so they had to cover their butt by calling me.
Now, also to kind of inform everybody that's watching, your detective that you had for your area, wasn't he brand new? He was like, this was his first case, murder case.
This was his first case. Yeah. Yes.
So they're not keeping you informed of what the developments are, what's going on. You're still looking for her. You know, I know you had the Facebook page and stuff that was set up. Everybody's trying to share through social media, flyers, all this kind of stuff is trying to get the word out about that Valerie is missing. They don't even tell you about the
Yeah.
car. You find out 2 months later that the car is found. And so now you're sitting here still wondering, I'm assuming at this point, that what are the developments of them talking to Patrick?
I do want to put it out there that the day after we filed the police report, the Scotts came over here and she took me one direction and he took Jack the other to console us. More or less, it was to pick our brains, but at the time, it was to console us. And she was telling us how, I'm sure she's fine. She'll be home. I'm sure she just ran away. She's out having fun, being a teenager type thing. And then she's asked me where I thought she went. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, the only one I know that's capable of taking care of her financially would be the boy from Illinois.
Yeah.
And she mentioned how there was a friend of hers or a family member of hers, I'm not sure which, that lived out there. Approximately 20 minutes from the location I was telling her that he had worked. And so she was going to send them over to see if they maybe seen her or him or whatever. Just trying to reassure me that they're looking and helping look for her and all that. Well, Linda said multiple times throughout the next few days how she's sure she ran away, that she'll be back. And I left home at 17. And I told my husband when I come in, I was like, why does she keep saying that? And he said, what? And I said, she keeps telling me, well, she's sure Valerie ran away. She left home at 17. The last time she said it to me, I pointed it out to her and I said, yeah, Linda, but you left to get me married. There's a huge difference. I don't know where my kid is. And
Right.
she never said it to me again after that. But before that, it was like over and over. And I told my husband, so something's up with that. And then there was another thing she kept pointing out was, oh, well, they must have crossed paths. And I was like, what? She said, he must have been coming in the back road and she must have been coming down the front road. They must have crossed paths. And I was like, why are you pointing that out?
Mm-hmm.
What's the need to point that out? And then it dawned on me, she's trying to point out to me that he was obviously at home when Valerie left. Well, if you read the police report, nobody was home but Patrick Scott, correct?
Right.
She put herself at being at home. So which is it? Was she at home? Was she not at home? Because I believe she was at home. And I obviously don't buy into this bull crap that has been told to us.
So here we have Patrick eventually gets arrested. They arrest him for lying to the police, right?
Mm-hmm.
They end up arresting him
because
they figure out he's lying because they had the FBI was getting involved with Rush County Police, and they were sitting here trying to locate phones, trying to locate where the phones were. And that's where you find out that he gets arrested. Was it around that time that they told you that they had a ping from the phone, like coming to the neighborhood?
No.
Okay.
I never heard nothing from the police until I called them, and they never once mentioned anything about the phone until right before his final arrest.
Okay.
But I was told the first arrest was due to him lying. And then the second time they come out after that, I believe they said they had search warrants for seizing electronics. And then the third time was the last time they came in.
So, and when they came, you all of a sudden, and to let everybody know, this is the view from where Patrick Scott's home was. That basically, you guys' houses are back to back.
Underneath it,
and he owns that property and an adjoining property. And suddenly, and I remember you telling me this, and I was shocked as hell. You suddenly wake up, and you all of a sudden see vehicles out there with dogs searching the waters.
So that day, my husband had a friend call, and he said, "Bro, have you seen this?" And he's like, "No, what?" He said, "You got to come down here." So he went down, and he called me, and he described what he was seeing, and I instantly started crying. And he's like, "Calm down. Why are you crying?" And I said, "Jack, that's not nothing little. I mean, they know something, because they wouldn't be doing that. They didn't." And he said, "Doing what?" And I said, all them cars and the dogs and the tent. The tent's what upset me. When I heard there was a tent out there, I knew this is not good. In the search, I was shocked when they said it come up empty. But
and this is the FBI was out there too at that time. And they were checking near the water, and the story was the scent. There was the dogs like picked up a scent, but it wasn't actually where they were searching. They thought it was because, and had to do figuring out of where the wind was blowing, that the dogs were picking up something, but it wasn't where they actually were.
They didn't know that at the time. They had to go talk to the trainers to find out why the dogs were indicating that there was something there when there wasn't. So after they spoke to the trainers told them that the water itself holds scent. So it could have been a breeze blowing across the water that the water had captured. It could have been a runoff somewhere underground trickling into the pond. So they done some aerial searches with some
Helicopters, yeah.
drones, and that's when they realized that there was ground that had been disturbed all over the place. And then after that, they had come out with cadaver dogs and done another search of the property with a warrant. But before this search, he did notify me because I let him know that the last one really upset me. I said, you guys could have given me a heads up. You could have said, hey, we're going to go out there and search. No, we don't know anything. We're just searching.
Right.
And I said, but you did. And it caused me to have an anxiety attack.
Sure.
And then I was trying to dry it all up before my daughters come in the room because I didn't want them getting upset for no reason. And sure enough, here come my oldest one. So I had to explain to her what they were doing. I didn't want to have to do that. So the last time he says that he's going to call and keep my phone by my bed. And I would hear from him in the morning. And I would know why when I heard from him. And I said, okay. Well, morning come and I'm sitting here just looking at this clock like, okay, are you going to call or what? And my husband calls me and he says, your phone is going straight to mine or something. And I said, what? He said, yeah, all your calls are going to me. And I was like, oh, crap. I messed up my phone because of my nephew's baby mama drama. He had passed away while we were looking for Valerie. And I was dealing with her on top of all this. So I tried to block their stuff. And somehow I messed up my phone and blocked everything. And so the officer knocked on my door and he said, I just want to let you know, we're going to block every road. And it's going to be, I mean, he made it clear it was going to be very dramatic. There will possibly be camera crews. There will definitely be cop cars all up and down the roads. And they weren't, they were there to turn over every stone, basically.
So then the police released the information about them having a press conference out to the public, that they're going to do this press conference, which, did you have any word about that press conference that they were going to do? Or did you find out, and did they talk to you before they said all the stuff they did, or did you get a heads up on it, or no?
Trying to think of the press conference happened the day after, I believe. So yeah, they did let me know that it was going to happen. I didn't know exactly what it would consist of. Never really dealt with any of that. But going in, I kind of was hoping for more answers, I think, than anything. And I was kind of shocked, I guess, that there weren't.
Right.
The whole time. The entire thing from beginning to end has left me baffled.
So you end up finding out there, or finding out that they believe they found Valerie, right? They said they still had to do the autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I know the media kind of give them a little bit of, because they were giving us condolences and nothing had been verified. And they were asking, why are you giving condolences to Miss Tindall, which is Miss SANDEFUR, but if you don't know for sure, and then they just left it at that. They just didn't say nothing. Which I didn't realize or think about that at the time. I was like, yeah, why are they? Like, are you supposed to verify that first? Granted, I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out, but yeah, my kid's missing and you just found a body. So yeah, I'm bawling my eyes out.
So they issue, after they search this water, they do the aerial search, they find disturbed ground that is on adjoining property next to where Patrick Scott owns where his house is. He owns an adjoining property. They find disturbed ground. Then they finally issue this search warrant, right? And go to search finally in November. She's been gone since June 7th of 23, and they go till the end of November of 2023 to finally search his property. The man and they know had been lying, was the last person to be with her and seen with her. Find her car, right? Find her car in a work site where he, we find out later all the details and stuff. I don't want to jump too much ahead, but he sits here and they wait till November. They find her. And then and I know people, if you watch the first story I did about when this guy was getting arrested, and you learn the details and stuff like that, I know that was a difficult time for your family, period, to find all of this out and to know what was going on. Then we get where they are reporting now, because when they find her, he finally decides to confess. Except, and I was upset when this happened. So, Jackie, I'm going to try to hold back bad words. I'm going to do my very, very best.
He's not here right now. You want to come back?
But so they turn around and there are reports in the news that is basically trying, in my opinion, I think that they're reporting like what the hell this murderer did, and now what he's saying like it was fact, because just like we said in the beginning show, he's trying to claim, well, I met her. We met in show. She drove out there to the work site, and I drove her from there back to my house, which is next to your house, right back to her home. He has her in the house, and he tries to allege, which I'm going to say bullshit at the beginning, and then I'm going to say bullshit at the end. He wants to allege then that she was trying to seduce him. Nobody can see this, but I'm using air quotes right now. She's trying to seduce him. Yeah. He's not going to have any of that. So, and then he claims that she was going to blackmail him for a car because she's trying to seduce him, and he gets a belt off of him and he strangles her because that's what she's trying to do. So it's all her fault. It's not, he has no blame on this. And the police department is who gave that statement information out to the media, and the media reported it like it was true.
Thank you. Absolutely. And they just ran with it. I mean, everybody just ran with it. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This man said at first he didn't see her. Then he dropped her off with a boy. Then he supposedly brought her back here and what? And you're doing like, why? What? How are you going to sit here and take a murderer's statement, and a liar, obviously, an habitual liar, and just take it for fact? Makes no sense.
And he's lied to them the whole damn time. So why would he take the statement now? He's going to make whatever he can to make him look better than what piece of shit he is.
Hey, baby, right? Bring my battery. Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So his further bullshit story then, that, this man who suddenly thinks he had to do this because he's trying to blame her, which I want to point out to everybody. So Valerie had a boy she liked. She sat here and went to the dance with this boy. She sat here and, was sitting here and working for this man since she was 15 years old, was a neighbor of his since she was about 10 years old. And he's sitting here saying this happened. Why did he meet her out at work? Have her meet out at work. She drives her car out there. She's driving the vehicle back. Hell, we don't even know. I mean, did something even happen before on the way out there? Because then he's saying, oh, well, we're in my house. This happens. Then after he says he does this, he hides her in his office where he lives with his family. His family lives there.
Yep.
He hides her in the office, goes buy wood from Home Depot, builds 2 boxes. I want to make sure everybody understands this too.
And nobody notices this. Nobody notices that.
Right. Nobody over there notices. It takes time, right? Family doesn't notice. Builds 2 boxes. Yeah. 1 box he puts Valerie in. Right? They say he wrapped her up, all this.
We lost it. Oh my God.
Put it in the box. It's okay. I think her phone was dying, so I'll wait for her to call in. I'll continue to fill in. And then the other box he builds, guess what's weird, guys? He fills it with VHS tapes and paperwork. And what the hell's on the VHS tapes? So he goes, removes her. Again, the family's saying they don't know anything. The wife says she doesn't know anything going on. Puts her in a wheelbarrow. Takes her, puts her in the box, goes to a adjoining property right there, puts her in there. And then after he does that, he then puts the other box on top of that box, which both of them are like coffin-like, and buries it. Absolutely buries it. So that's how they end up finding her, not till November. Sorry, just sending her a text, make sure. So, I mean, the whole thing, and I'll probably repeat this because when she comes back in, because me and her talked about this, the whole thing is, and I will share that SHENA and I had been talking before the plea deal went down. And we'd been talking because I was going to cover this case even in more depth about when she was missing. And then suddenly to hear when the first search warrant went from them checking the water and the ground, and then the next, search warrant later, and then when it ends up that he gets arrested, it just broke my heart. But to find out that same day, on this June 7th, that's the day he murdered her. That is the day he murdered her. Now, the mom and dad already bought a car for her through them. His wife was pissed that he did that. She was sitting there trying to get always trying to get Valerie in trouble by going over to SHENA and telling them stuff to get Valerie in trouble, following her around in Shelbyville in her vehicle, just before this, and trying to get her in trouble of, oh, your daughter's speeding, probably to try to get the vehicle and stuff away from her. Then water ends up in her gas tank and the vehicle's not working. And somehow they're the ones who do that. Then when they realize and report that she's missing, they're trying to comfort them by trying, oh, well, she probably just ran away. She probably just ran away. So what does he also share? He goes and he shares that after this happened and after he buried her, he went and now listen to this. Tell me if you guys think somebody else was helping here. He had to drive back from Arlington, Indiana, where they live, right? Where they live, where he lives. He has to drive back to Arlington, Indiana, from Arlington, Indiana to Shelbyville, the work site, where they were mowing lawns and stuff. He gets her car. He drives her car to a nearby apartment complex. And then he backs her car, Valerie's car, up into a parking spot. He removes the license plate. He takes the keys. He leaves the vehicle there. And he says he throws the license plate and the keys in the river. Somewhere in the river. He doesn't know. So here, this family is hearing that he confesses. And I'm telling you, every damn report that they had, every damn report in the news media. You know why? Because they got it from the police. Now, the police officer was brand new. This is the first time he ever had a murder case, period. But he's the one who turns around, releases this information to the media, and suddenly every damn report has, oh, well, Valerie was trying to seduce him. Then she was, he wasn't going to have it. She was going to blackmail him if he could have a car. And then, so he had to strangle her. And, he didn't plan it. It just happened that way. And then he keeps her in the office. And then he goes and gets wood. But nobody in his house he lives with sees this going on. Then he builds these boxes. She gets taken in a box with her body in it, dumped in the hole. Then another box that looks just like it is filled with VHS tapes and stuff. What's on the VHS tapes? Like I was just mentioning to her to bring up, he had cameras all over the place. He had surveillance cameras all over the house, outside the house, which showed their house next door. She has 3 girls. Was he watching those 3 girls? What's on that tape? Valerie had been working with him since she was 15 years old. Why is there no investigation in when this actually started? He's her boss. He's the boss. He is the person who is her superior, her neighbor. Oh, hold on one second. They're back on here with me. There we go.
Baby.
Hi, did you hear me typing already? I was going off. I was going off without you. Anyway, I was sharing with them about the continuation of the vehicle and about, here, again, them reporting that every damn news report was saying his words as fact, right? All these things, you get this stuff that he's supposed to be confessing, all of this crap. So now you get information that the prosecutor for Rush County announces that there's going to be a plea deal agreement with Patrick Scott, right? So they contact you about the plea agreement, right? Yeah, can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yes. So you hear from the prosecutor about them trying to do a plea deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're cutting in out real bad.
That's okay. Do you want to go out and come back in, or it's up to you?
It cleared up all of a sudden. That's weird.
Okay.
Well, I guess we're good.
Okay. So
So
you
the plea
hear from the
agreement,
prosecutor
we,
about this plea deal.
yeah, we was asked to come in to have a meeting to discuss the case, is what we were told. Can you please take her over there somewhere? We had no idea what that consisted of. He mentioned the plea agreement and other things. We thought that we would be given information at the time, but when we get in there, we're told right off the bat that there's a lot of stuff about the case that they cannot discuss. More or less, there's nothing about the case they can discuss. But then he turns around and asks me, is there anything I'd like to know? And I'm like, well, what's the point? I mean, you just told me there's nothing you could tell me. But he also had asked how we felt about the plea agreement, which I thought it was fine. I didn't see no issue with it. Not really. Again, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff. Never really been in trouble a day in my life, besides once, I think. And then that was even not anything serious. I've never been to court over nothing. Like, I don't know how any of this stuff works. So I'm taking a plea agreement. He's asking me if it's okay to talk to Scott about one, and then he would bring it back to us and we would discuss what it was and whether or not he was willing to do it. Well, they had us sign papers while we were in there, and I thought it was just saying that we were okay with getting a plea agreement. Nope. That was the last and the only time we talked to the prosecutor. Other than that, I think we had heard from his secretary. I'm not sure what you call her, the official word, but she was the one who'd email me, and that was very seldom.
Our advocate.
Our advocate, that's right. Yeah, our advocate was the one getting a hold of me, but that wasn't even very often. That was maybe a total of 3 times, if that. If I would have known then what I know now, which I did make it clear in that prosecutor's office that I was trying, or I wanted to get an attorney. I asked him if he thought I should, and he told me that he wasn't allowed to say yay or nay to that, that was up to me. But then again, kind of in a roundabout way, was like, yeah, you probably should. Well, I wanted to because, again, I didn't understand any of this. And the case, this is what, I mean, this really blew my mind, is it took you from June to November to find my daughter, right? Tell me why the hell we're going to court and giving him his sentence within a month and a half? Like, what? I mean, it just blew my mind how long it took to find her, but then no sooner we find her, we're done. I don't understand. Like, what? How do we go from looking for her to we're signing plea agreements and going to court? That was way too quick. I didn't even have time to think or process or deal with anything. And that has literally been the entire case. As soon as we found Valerie, it was calling me. I know this isn't sudden, but it is sudden. Like, we need to get this moving, figuring out what we're going to do with our daughter. And let me tell you, that's about the most uncomfortable conversation you could possibly have. Trying to figure out and plan your child and what you're going to do with their body.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, the fact that they're sitting here and they're rushing this, I have serious questions about so much.
So let's talk about a few things that I know that you shared with me that you were trying to get information about. Are you all right? You doing okay? All right.
I'm good.
So first, when they were, when the coroner, you spoke to the coroner and you were trying to get information from the coroner because they said the remains that you shouldn't look at it and that you were trying to find
Yeah.
out some details. And they said that when they
Yeah.
found Valerie, she was dressed. She had clothes on. And when you talked to the coroner, though, she kind of was, I don't know what's the proper word, but a little harsh in just asking you, well, what is it that you want to know? And the things that you
Mhm.
asked, you were trying to find out basically if she was sexually assaulted. And the
My first
coroner,
question was, you have proof that she was strangled with a belt? That was my first question. And she
right,
tells me that there's not enough tissue to say yes or no, whether or not it was or was not a belt, but there are signs of strangulation. Okay.
which we
And
talked
then I
about
said,
maybe the
well, the main
bone.
question I got.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, the main question I have, and my biggest concern right now was, well, the first time I spoke to her, my main question was it violent? Like, did she go in a violent or in my opinion, very traumatic way? And it was. I was hoping to God it was like something quick that she didn't know had happened. So that was very hard on me to hear that. But then the second time I talked to her, it was when I had asked her about whether or not the signs were there of all that. And she told me there wasn't enough tissue. And then when she told me that, I'm thinking, man, I just know what's going to come out of her mouth. And I just know it, but I don't want to hear it. But I'm going to ask. And I was like, my main question is, did he rape her? You know, because that's the only thing that makes sense. The only thing is you
Right.
raped her and you tried to cover it up. Right. And she says there's not enough tissue. Oh my God. When I got off the phone, I fell to my knees and I screamed at the top of my lungs and I started crying. And before I knew it, I was down the street headed toward his house. I was out. I don't know. I was just so angry. And I caught myself and I'm like, what are you doing? I seen that she wasn't home and I said, thank God she wasn't out here because I don't know what I would have done. But to sit here and tell me that you have no answers, and the reason why you have no answers is because you waited too long. Oh, that pissed me off so bad. And she
Well,
was right there. Are you kidding me?
and the clothes. But if she's got
And
clothes
that,
on, they should still be able to
I
check
said,
her clothing for
I
DNA.
mentioned that to my family later. Yep, absolutely. If she's fully dressed, it'd be on her clothing. So
So,
I still don't have the autopsy. I still don't have a death certificate. I never seen the body. I had actually mentioned viewing her several times, and I was told several times, I highly recommend you don't. And I thought, I have to, you know, I just have to. And I know I don't want to. Nobody wants to, but I have to. My husband, he even expressed being uncomfortable with me seeing it. He didn't think I could handle it. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to drop it because everybody's against it. And then I got this idea that I was going to ask the funeral home director when he got her to hold her for me. And he said that it wasn't a problem. And I was going to wait until my husband left for work in the morning, and I was going to head right up there as soon as he left. Well, he calls me the very next morning, right before we're both about to leave, and he says, "Sheena, can I go ahead with the cremation?" And I'm like, wondering what, but I didn't say nothing. And he says, "The smell is just so bad." And he said, "They got her 3 bags." And I thought, what? They got her like 3 bags? I was thinking separate bags at first. He said, "No, they got her flared 3 times." And he was like, "And it still smells so bad." And I was speechless. I didn't even know what to say to that. And he goes, "Can I go ahead with the cremation?" I said, "Yeah, I guess." I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
I was so mad at myself for saying, they keep saying that they verified it was her with her dental records, and that an officer noticed orange nail polish. I'm sorry, but even without this situation, I have to have proof. I mean, I had a coworker once ask me if I heard heard their secret or something one time, and I said, "I've heard gossip, but no, I don't know that I've heard their secret, but I don't take people's word ever. Like, I'm not taking your word for it. I need proof. I need to visually see something that says this is my child, even though all the signs point to it."
Right.
And if you watch crime TV, you'll understand why.
Right. Oh, exactly. Oh, exactly. And so the prosecutor at that time, when he came out to talk to you and stuff like that, basically he also said he wasn't able to tell you anything, right? He gave you the impression like you were going to get more answers on the other side of this, right? Once it was done.
Yeah.
And somehow they're offering a plea deal to a man who lied to them, which they dropped those charges of him lying the whole time to the police, misleading the police in an investigation. They dropped those charges off of him. And then you get in the mail, because I think I remember talking to you like maybe right after you had got it, that you got in the mail a first notification that said March 18th is the plea hearing date. Certified mail. Telling you this was going to happen.
I don't think I got one in the mail.
Was it dropped off? I just
For the
remember you getting
18th.
it at the
There was
house.
something I read. There was something that I did get that said the 27th was the original date.
Yeah.
And it somehow went from the 27th down to the 11th. They kept getting
Right.
changed, the time and the days.
Well, I knew that there was a date, then it had been March 18th. And then even after that, like literally right before then it went even earlier. It got moved a whole week earlier to March 11th. Which, I knew you and I talked, and it was like, did they call you or whatever? And you were like, no, they didn't call and tell me anything. You saw it. You saw it on the information, but nobody called to tell you that happened. So, you're not sure why they of course he's going to confess now. They find her there. They have all this info. They know he was lying. They did the search to get his phones. They go on his property to finally find her months later, freaking months later after all of this. You're not being told anything directly of getting the autopsy report, no details, nothing being told to you, all of this kind of stuff. And then the plea deal's coming up. You had to make you are contacted about making a victim statement. before he
And
goes
we
in.
did. And in the
Um,
victim's statement, I asked the judge to prolong the court date because I wanted to get an attorney, and I put that in my statement. And in that courtroom, he looks at the prosecutor and asks the prosecutor, is there any reason to prolong this? And the prosecutor said no. And that was that. I made it clear that I wanted to get an attorney.
right. Right. So you go through all of that process, and then you're thinking, and that most, I know a lot of people on here do follow true crime and cases and things like that. You know, normally the plea deal is given because the perpetrator is supposed to give up the truth. They're supposed to tell exactly
Yep.
the details, and everything should be
That's
given
true.
in order for that plea deal.
Somebody else told me that that could be part of the plea deal, and I was baffled by that. I'm like, what? So we could request that he has to tell the truth as part of his plea deal. And I
Right.
was like, they never even discussed, not one time did they discuss what we were letting him have. They asked us,
Right.
would we be okay with a plea deal? And he did mention that he was going to shoot for, he said that, I think it was 65 years was max, 45 was the minimum, I think my husband said. And then he was telling us this. And so he said he'd shoot for in the middle, which would have been 55 years. I'm like, yeah, sure. Because he's 50 something years old, and 30 years, he's lucky if he lives to be that long, you know? So, and on top of whatever he's going to go through when he's in there, I wasn't worried about the time really. But the fact that they just didn't discuss it, like they didn't give us an option to say what we wanted.
I asked him what he agreed
Yeah.
with for. What is he getting out of it? And he said it was so he wouldn't get the death penalty.
Yeah. He told us that the plea agreement was so he wouldn't get the death penalty. That was supposed to be what he was getting it for.
That he's
Yeah,
been
but-
death penalty
But-
since 96.
But he didn't give anything up. I mean, normally you only give somebody a deal because you get something out of them that normally you can't get.
Yep.
You didn't even need anything out of him. You already know that he did it.
Well,
I
later
mean, how
on at court, when he was getting sentenced, Sheena asked him again, what was his deal out of it? And what did he say? He was totally different answer. I can't remember. It was
He
totally
dropped the
different.
charges. I mean, it's just what Scott got.
He just
Right.
dropped the two
Scott
charges
got
for life.
two
Yeah.
of those charges dropped. Yep.
Scott got it. And I've said that from the beginning. It almost feels like they're
They're working
working
for
for
him.
the Scots, not us, the Scots. Absolutely.
So you guys go in, you make your victim statement, you realize he's getting this plea deal. He has 2 charges dropped. He gets 57 years, which everybody knows.
And I couldn't even get this
57
court date.
years. That doesn't mean that he's going to serve 57 years.
No, he has to serve
doesn't happen anymore.
75%.
Yep.
No,
And
75% is what he has.
But he gave nothing. He gave up nothing whatsoever. So you guys sit
No.
there. It's over, and you find out nothing. You find out
Nothing.
how long has this man been targeting your daughter. You don't find out what was the truth, not his bullshit
The motive.
story.
Like,
What was the truth?
yeah, what was the motive behind killing her?
We still don't know it.
And the fact that the day that this all happened, supposedly Valerie meeting him up there and all that, there's so many other stories that people that I talked to since then that say that they talked to her at 2:00 in the afternoon, first of all. And then secondly, I had an officer verify that there was another vehicle of the Scotts sitting on the property where he had met Valerie that day to work. Now, how the hell did Patrick Scott get 2 cars on his property up at the job site by himself?
Well, exactly.
Somebody drove the other car, which says this was premeditated. And if you don't know whether or not he raped her, why are we going to court? If you don't know who else is involved, why are we going to court? Like,
Well,
I just-
and I
I
shared
can't
with
wrap my
you.
head around it.
and a lot of my people who are watching here and stuff like that, I mean, I follow a lot of and watch a lot of predators who get convicted. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that you mentioned, and you know, and I don't know, I don't have all the stuff here in front, but when you talk about that, how long he's been around her, how long that she worked for him, and all of this stuff of watching her phones, of there being cameras outside, of all this stuff going on, you know, it sounds like a grooming that she would feel comfortable around him. And
Absolutely.
even if they're communicating now and he's talking to her in a certain way, one, he's an authority figure because he's his boss. Two, she is under
Yeah.
the age of 18. And then you wonder, and I know you and I, Shayna, talked about this, because it also seems so much premeditation, because she doesn't work on
Yeah.
a Wednesday. He gets her to drive out there. He drives her
Nope.
back to his house. He's leaving her here. He's doing this
Nope.
stuff. It sounds total premeditation of something going on. And that he's the one who
Absolutely.
uses the word blackmail. Nobody blackmails because I'm,
Yep.
you know, you're saying here you're going to be tried to be seduced. That's not a reason for blackmail. But if you have been sexually
Nope.
abusing this little girl for years and you're worried she's going to tell, that's a motive. That's a
Yeah,
motive.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And the other thing I bring up, what the hell is on all those VHS tapes he was trying to bury? What's in there?
So the last meeting with the officers that we had, he was bringing out a video of the day they brought Pat Scott in for questioning on November 28th. And in the video, he mentions that box that was on her and says that the box of porn you had on her. And Scott looks, huh? And the officer goes on to talk about Valerie or whatever he was discussing before that. And I thought, okay, so you're throwing it out there that it's porn. First of all, you said there was miscellaneous paperwork and VHSs. Secondly, why would somebody bury porn? It's not illegal to have porn. Third of all, why did you mention it like you did and then move on so quickly from it as soon as Scott questioned it? He was kind of baffled that you said porn. That's all we've heard about it. Absolutely
Now, I
all we've
will
heard
say
about it.
this. There is a chance that if they found, because I mean, obviously my suspicion is going to be, if it's VHS tapes, it is
All porn.
taped pornography, right? And if it's taped pornography,
Absolutely.
it can be CSAM, child sexual abuse material with underage girls in it. And
Yeah.
if he owns that type of thing, one of the things that's going to happen is that would be turned over to the FBI to investigate, because they also then have to identify who the victims are. And
Yeah.
because they had this murder case, they could have held, because they're going to hold him in jail no matter what, but they could have held on to wait to find out, is Valerie on there? Are other kids in the neighborhood
I was
on
told
there?
that there are 17 home videos, whatever in the hell that means.
Right.
Other than that,
And so, you know, I mean, but
and there ain't no telling what that means.
But you guys still deserve the answers. If Rush County knows the FBI has to investigate further, this man's already in jail. The FBI agent should be able to tell you they are looking further into what's on the tape. They should be able to tell you further. Do they suspect Valerie's on a tape, that he did something to her and it's taped?
I mean, they would know by now, right? You would think they would know by now. But the whole thing of them letting us know, like, there's nothing that anybody has released or told us other than that video there. And that video is basically everything that the public knows that he said, his lies, and that's it.
Well, I mean, the only thing that would be good is if we could find out the answers. Is the FBI investigating those tapes? Was there child pornography on there? And are they? The only reason I say that is because if the FBI add charges to him for him to have something like that, his ass is staying in jail for the rest of his life.
Wondering. That's one thing I was wondering is how we're going to court and you don't know all the answers. Like, I didn't understand how you could sentence somebody when you don't have all the answers. Like, we still hadn't had the autopsy back.
Exactly.
We didn't have any of that. Like, but I do know I am talking to one of the ladies at the FBI Monday, just because she was out. It was too late today, and she was out. But she's gonna look into it, see what they have and what they don't have as of right now. I do know that they were waiting on a unit.
Do you know? Is she in a special unit?
She is with the victims advocates, I believe. She's one of them I was given the number to contact about the case.
Because, if not, the other thing that would be good is, I don't know if automatically would go in there, but you could also look at contacting the Indiana Internet Crimes Task Force and let them know who has the videos right now. Rush County or the FBI? That's what, you know what I mean?
We've been told so much. Like, okay, at one point the FBI said that they were done with it, right? I mean, you hear in the police report when they go up there and have their meeting, you hear them say, our part's done. But later, I was told they're still testing. According to Rush County, the FBI had everything from A to Z. When they come out and they found her, they said that they literally took everything, and we can't give you any information because we don't have anything. So they were waiting for them to return everything, including the VHS tapes. And then it went from that to I feel like I was led to believe that the FBI was done again at some point. I reached out to them and let them know that I wanted further investigating to happen. I've reached out to a lot of higher ups because of this case. Not just because it's my daughter either. And I want people to know that. Like, I feel in my gut and in my heart that something's just not right out here.
Right.
Something just doesn't sit well with me. And so I've asked people to investigate and to look into it because, again, something's just not right. You don't one day, 60 years old, hey, I'm going to murder somebody today. And the way that him and his wife went about it. So
now nobody else has been arrested and nobody else is in jail. I want to answer that question that I saw rolling through here. There has been nobody else arrested. Although there is a curiosity of how did vehicles get moved? How did that all happen? How did nobody know that there was something going on in the house? How did nobody know that, boxes were being built, holes were being digged, all this kind of stuff? I also have another question by an audience member. They're asking, and I remember we talked about this. Did he have a criminal record before that we know of? Wasn't there something that you mentioned?
Told me no.
Okay.
They told me no.
I didn't see anything.
I have a family member. Yeah, I have a family member who looked him up. And she was pretty certain it was him, and she had me look at it, but we were in the middle of chaos at the time. So I kind of glanced over it. And from what I seen, it legitimately looked like it was him. And I was like, what is this? And it said for strangulation. I was like, oh my God. And so I called the state that it was in. And the lady who had answered the phone told me she could not say yes or no, that she could not answer that for me. And I said, why not? It's public record. Like, you can literally go online. I just want you to verify it. And she
Right.
again said she couldn't. And she goes, is there a reason why you're wanting to know? And I said, yes, because he's involved in my daughter's disappearance. And so she says, can I call you back in about 5 minutes? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Never heard back from her. After that phone call and that conversation, that's when the FBI had gotten involved. Now, I don't know if it was due to that conversation or what, but they
Right.
did get involved after that.
So after this plea deal
That's
goes
amazing.
through, you guys leave that courtroom. You learned nothing. You had nothing that you knew from them in the beginning because they told you they couldn't release anything yet. They go through all of this. They offer him a plea deal. They take 2 charges off. They give him 57 years, which he will not serve all of that. That's not how sentencing works in Indiana. And
Nope.
he gave nothing because he didn't come back and tell the truth. He didn't say about anything in there. You're curious if something happened to Valerie that day by him, which they can't tell you.
Absolutely.
Even though she may have been in the state she's in, she's still wearing clothes. You can still tell by clothes if something happened, if there's DNA. Did they test for DNA? You guys don't know. It doesn't sound like they tested for DNA because I think
It sounds like to me
told you that.
they took everything that Mr. Scott said and they wrote it down on paper and said, hey, this is it. Here we go.
Right.
What it sounds like. I mean, more or less. You have somebody who's willing to confess to a murder. Okay, well, that doesn't say crap. You know, my kid killed somebody. I guarantee it. I go to prison for him, you know. So telling me that he did it ain't proving nothing. Telling me that he strangled her is not proving nothing. Like, where is the proof? That's what I want to know.
So the day that this happened, you guys hadn't found anything. But I want to let everybody know, and I post this in a community post, the 2 documents for you guys to see. So if you guys didn't see that, I'm talking to the audience, if you guys didn't see those close up, the 2 formed letter that the Rush County Sheriff released on March 11th of 2024, when he was given this plea deal and they go to court, they decide to release this statement on their Facebook page, and it goes out. There is no media there the day he is getting this plea deal. There's no media out there that day. And so then they go out and they release this. And, you know, this reading, when they talk about he pled guilty to murdering Valerie Tindall in Rush County, that they're about the agreement, he got 57 years. They talk about that he had murdered her on June 7th. You know, and they talked about took this investigation so seriously over the past 5 months, who they worked with. And then they arrested him November 28th of 2023. And then they talk about from day one, the investigation was seriously and immediately began executing search warrants on various social media platforms, phone providers, and bank accounts to begin the process of tracking Tindall. And then they go on to basically talk about where Scott had lived, and that he had strangled her again by saying with his belt. So they still say that that he put her in the box, right? They talk about all this. Rush County Sheriff's Office viewed Scott as a suspect in this investigation early on, although they didn't search his damn property, people. They didn't search his property. They think he was a suspect early on, but they don't check his property till November. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. So they also talk about
what they did. But the truth is, when they come out, we sat here and watched them. They went through his car. They went through a vehicle. They never went inside. They never walked the yard or the premises. Not once. That never happened until November.
And if they would have had a
Which I
dog,
think it's funny how it's so conveniently that they spent so much time to find her that they couldn't verify anything. It's kind of funny, isn't it?
well, if they would have taken the dog close to his house, and if he had her hidden in his office the way he says, then the dogs would have noticed that right away. They still
Yeah.
would have noticed that she was in the office. They talk about the cadaver search that's in there. I do encourage everybody to read this because I found it to be just a
Absolutely.
ridiculous letter that they wrote, because it just kept repeatedly talking like how we didn't make any mistakes. We did this right away. They talked about different stuff of the search warrants on this different day. I'm trying to look for this one line that he had. That he was under constant surveillance during the execution of the search warrants, about when he was taken in custody,
Custody.
and then he's like, our agency is fully aware of the effects this tragedy has had on the community and wants the public to understand that we took this seriously from the start, which led to the arrest and conviction. There are several narratives that have been inaccurately reported during this investigation. When you combine the inaccuracies in the timeline of events, location of events, and details of events, they give a false perception of misread flags, which is not accurate. The accurate timeline
Wow.
and true narrative provided the foundation which led to this case being solved and ultimately to a conviction. This investigation was conducted thoroughly, professionally, and effectively, utilizing every available resource and agency that we had available to us. This investigation was solved and justice was brought against Scott because all the agencies came together, worked collectively, and did their job, resulting in a successful prosecution. This is a tragic case for Tindall's family and our community. However, over the course of this investigation, we found so many citizens willing to assist in any way necessary in locating Tindall. When we needed to check properties or needed to park our equipment on properties, our fellow citizens never hesitated to assist us. For that, we appreciate that support and assistance. It sounds like an excuse letter to me. I'm going to say it right now.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I totally respect authority. But this BS out here, like, to me, it sounds just like Scott. Like, he is manipulating Valerie the whole time, you know? It's kind of like on that line to me, the way this letter goes out. It's like manipulate the public. You know, we greatly appreciate all your help. Okay. When the whole time I've heard about them getting upset because pictures are posted on media and stuff, and people are talking about the whole time, all I heard was concern about stuff going out to media. They did not want it in the public's eye. The entire case. That's all I've heard.
Well, I don't know what
the
they
whole
got in the media. I mean, once they released that she was a silver alert, I don't know what else they did. After that point, there wasn't really much that they did. And unfortunately, you did have a detective who this was his first murder case. And, you know, who was helping making sure he was informing you. You don't accidentally find out in your backyard that they're searching for her by looking out the damn window.
Yeah. Yeah. I do believe the officer, I'm sure, had, you know, his struggles as it was his first case, but he also had people guiding him. And I had an officer tell me to my face that the whole decision with the car was his choice. I also know I heard people over the phone in the background telling him how to handle it. So there were people handling him while he handled the case. It wasn't like they just let him go on his own and here you go. threw him out there for the wolves. So that officer, I do believe he did do his best. I do believe
Right.
that he
As a
tried.
new
I think
detective.
that more people were in his ear, you know. He had more
Right.
people influencing what he was doing.
Yep. These photos that I have up right now, it looks like you have like kind of like a shrine to Valerie with stuff on it of hers.
Yes. Valerie's right in the middle, actually, by the flowers. We redecorate it all the time. People add to it or take away, depending on what it is. Like I did have my roses for my birthday up here, and a little wreath that she had gotten from some of the the townspeople. I've put horses that her sister and her had painted together up here. And a pair of her favorite earrings are hanging on her lantern. Just little memorabilia, picture of everybody that she was close to and fun times that they had together. I can actually give you a close-up of what it looks like now if you want.
Sure, let me.
This is her little bell. A friend of mine got her. That's her baby picture. Her ponies. This was something she had bought me. This don't usually sit here. That's her and her sisters and her baby spoon.
Mm. And
So
she
yeah, there's kind of
loved
a lot there.
animals. She
Oh, yeah.
loved animals.
Yeah, her pup, she's getting pretty old. She's running around here right now, blind at the me, walking into your legs and everything.
Yeah, I think I have, let's see, one of these pictures. One, I love this picture of her. That's her dress
My
from
sister
the
did that.
dance, right?
Yes, ma'am. My sister had cropped the boy out of it and put the flowers there. I thought, oh my gosh, that's so perfect. You did a wonderful job.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, it is a beautiful picture of her. I love that. I do
Yeah,
love that. So,
I
one
do
of the
too. I think the
reasons,
pictures are pretty
one of the
good.
reasons that I know that you are trying to speak out and your family is trying to speak out is because you still don't have the truth and the answers of what happened to Valerie.
No,
You don't have the details
I
from
do
that.
not.
Nothing came that plea deal happened and he didn't have to come forward and tell anything. You don't know
Nope.
how long this has been going on. You don't know how long he's been sitting there with Valerie. Whatever the situation and stuff is, they should be looking back of she'd been working with him since she was 15. Was he starting to groom her and stuff like
Yeah.
that from 15? Not check out, a text message here or a little bit right here and not dive deep into what happened. Why would he hide VHS videos? Why would he build 2 boxes? So he's trying to hide Valerie.
Yeah.
Why would he build 2 boxes? And that in one of the boxes,
And this man
he put
had
all these
noticed.
tapes.
Yeah. And the video that they showed us, the way he lies is like, it's unbelievable. Like there's a small indication at one point that he's lying just because of how he gets uncomfortable. He moves his feet back and stuff, and just the body language you could tell. But for the most part, he lies so well. And it's like he lies about stupid stuff. I mean, just stupid stuff. Like the fact that you're sitting here saying that you used a wood. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've already told you that they found a body on your yard. Like, why lie about where you got the damn wood from?
Right.
I don't understand that. And the way he just lies, it's like it comes so natural, and not just him, but her too. The way she
Right.
come over here to my face and just blatantly lied, like acting like a friend and trying to console me. And he says on the video right off the bat, my wife and daughter don't know nothing. A lie. Okay. You could tell when people are lying, and that's a lie. And then he also says, Linda's never been on that property. A lie. Linda was the only one on that property for a while after she went missing. There was a period of time once she knew that I knew that Pat had a warrant out, which she lied to me over the phone. I did not know at the time. I called her and I was like, did you know they have a warrant out for Pat? And she said, no, really? Come to find out, she was literally in the car with him, driving him to the police station at the time. So, stupid
Wow.
lies again. Like, why lie about it? Why not just say, yeah, we're on our way up to the police station now to turn him in? Like, well, I just don't get it. But, yeah, it's one lie after another and no answers.
And you got none before this when it first was going on. You waited patiently thinking you were going to get answers. You didn't get answers when they finally arrested him. You were waiting for answers after they arrested him. Then they offer a plea deal. You were trying to be patient and wait for the answers for that to be over, thinking that would be part of what was going to come from it, and it didn't come from it. And you are trying to get help to find out what the truth and the answers are. Whether, how long had this been going on? Was he possibly sexually abusing Valerie for over a period of time? Honestly, could there be more victims? If those tapes have, children on them or other children on them, are there more victims out there?
That right there was my number one concern. Is there, to me, there's no way there's not. Like, are you kidding me? Just
Right.
how easy and how it all went down. Like, there's no way. And then to find out that they released the property back to them like a day later. What? Are you kidding me? You're not going to come over here and search the property anymore? I don't know why, but I thought that would be something that would be done, look around a little bit more. No. And then, after, I don't know at what point they set it up, but the Scotts had this property supposedly sold, like right after he went to jail. Somebody had moved in moments after, like it didn't take a couple days. Again, premeditated. It's all been planned out. This case, I started off handling everything so well, I felt like, for someone who's losing their child, or at least led to believe that they've lost their child, because I don't know. But the longer this went on and the more crap I've had to deal with, the worse it's been. It got to the point where I had to quit my job because not only am I mentally and emotionally not able to, but on top of it, I was getting carpal tunnel in my hands and my arm. And just more or less the stress of the mental state, the nightmare that I've been living in.
Sure.
I couldn't go to work because I'm so worried that somebody's getting by with hurting my kid. Somebody else out there had helped him hurt my child. And they're just walking free. Because he says, I did it and I did it alone.
And you want to know, you told me before that a plea deal is supposed to relieve the family of not going through a trial, but you didn't want people to worry about you. You just wanted the truth out.
Just wanted answers. That's it. I could have went to trial. I could have done whatever need be. But I want the truth.
Right.
And it makes my guts turn because I don't know, it'd been a few months into it. And of course, somebody somehow removed all my messages on my phone, but somewhere along the line, I did ask Patrick Scott outright. in a text message, I messaged and said, "Where is Valerie? I know you know where she is because she would have been home by now." And I said, "If you hurt her, just tell me. Tell me so I can lay my daughter to rest. If you know where she went, tell me." And his response was, "I don't know where she's at." I even gave him a chance to come forward.
Well, he's not going to admit that, and that even just him admitting what he did, he's not going to admit all of it. You know, he's not going to
Oh,
admit everything he did, especially if he can face more charges, right? If he tells, you know,
yeah.
what's on those tapes or what else he's been doing,
Honestly,
he's trying to avoid other charges. And the
I don't
justice for
even
Valerie
understand why
is,
he admitted to this.
yeah. And I mean, well, I don't think he even really admitted to anything. We don't need you to admit it. We found, you know, they found everything now. You know, he didn't
Mhm.
even need a plea deal
Yeah.
because they already had all the evidence they needed. You know, the plea deal should have
Yeah.
been, well, let me tell you everything that's gone on. Let me tell you when this started. Let me tell you how this happened. And that's what's justice for Valerie, is let's know the truth
Yeah.
about when this happened, when this started. Has he hurt any other children? You know, what's going on from that? And you guys deserve that truth. And I know, you know, you're trying to figure out what's the best way to
Absolutely.
proceed with that, you know, whether you have to have an attorney or something, but you're not sure what to do or how to find one, or you know who does that. So I encourage anybody who's watching this, or knows somebody who does that, please, you can even email me. I can get that information over to Sheena to tell her. You can email me at justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. If you know, an attorney, or if you are an attorney who can, you know, help them figure out what they need to do. I'm sure, you know, I will definitely be in touch here with Sheena and Jack and Jackie and everybody, and just to make sure we know what's going on and what the updates are, and do we find out that is the FBI looking further? Who has the tapes? Who's going to find out the truth about what happened? And demand for the full truth to be out there, because that should have been part of the plea deal. That should have been what you were given to know the
Yeah.
full answers of it. So,
Absolutely.
is there anything
To me, there
that
was
we
just no
didn't?
justice.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we didn't cover, or anything about Valerie that you would like to share with everybody at all that we didn't cover?
I mean, no, I did express how she was going through some mental issues, and it was stemming from her childhood incident. And the reason why I touched on that is because she had gotten to a point where she was unpredictable. And
Yeah.
my daughter, I love her to death. She's a great person, but she needed help. And I tried to get that for her. She wouldn't. She refused. So my worry was that he had somehow convinced her to do something stupid, and they were going to plan this all out and play it out like that was her. And I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and if he'd been grooming her for the last
I was
several
worried
years,
that something more would happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that could be why she was going through more before, that she's been a victim of molestation before, and then she doesn't, you know, then suddenly
Mhm.
this is happening to her, and she's being groomed by a grown man that she's trusting, you know. So,
Yeah.
well, Sheena,
But
I
there was
can't thank you.
another female mentioned.
Yeah.
There was another female mentioned by a couple different people, and names have been thrown out there to me. And I've been told that this other person was involved in it, but it wasn't any of the Scots that I'm aware of. Like I said, they
Right.
do. Somebody needs to do some investigating.
Right.
If I could find that out, you could find that out. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate your time.
I appreciate you coming on. Like I've told you, my prayers are always with Valerie and your family. I appreciate Jackie coming on too. It's nice to meet Jackie and to see her
I got tired.
and we definitely want to spread the word about this case, the word about what's going on. Ask our justice warriors out there who are watching that we're looking for help to spread the news about this story, spread the news that they don't have the right answers. If there is somebody that knows, an attorney or somebody who is good at finding out this stuff and working on that, send me an email, justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. I will definitely remain in contact with SHENA as she finds out more, maybe from the FBI or whatever, to see what is happening and that the investigation needs to continue on because it's not done because they don't have all the answers they need. So, SHENA, God bless you. Always thinking of you. Always thinking of Valerie and your kids and Jack, your husband. And I know you said this has been just a
Yeah.
horrible nightmare, and you've been staying strong for Valerie.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been really rough. I mean, it's been rough on everybody. Everybody. I've got her best friend who she'll call me and she'll cry her eyes out. And her sister, I can hear her laying in bed crying sometimes. Her dad cries almost every night. Like it's hard. And
Yeah,
I just feel like if we had more answers, that it would just help a little.
absolutely.
And I understand that there's probably some things that I don't want to hear. I get it. There's probably things that I don't want to hear or see, but that doesn't mean keep it all from me. Like it's ridiculous.
Exactly. Well, thank you again for being on here and being so strong and stuff for Valerie and your kids and everything. And we will keep in touch so we can find out what's going on, what's the updates. And as people watch this and share this video, if I get anything from anybody talking about somebody who knows an attorney or anybody like that that can possibly help, or at least somebody that you can speak to, I will share that with you and let you know.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you, Justice Warriors, for being here. I wanted to share this story. Like I said, I had been talking to her. We were going to try to cover the case, and she wanted to wait until after the plea deal was over, really thinking that she was going to find out the answers from that. And she didn't. And they need help. So we need to make sure that the full truth comes out of what happened to Valerie. And we need to make sure that we can support that family. So thank you guys for being here. And thank you always for making sure that justice is served daily. Good night, everybody.